Hello. We are really happy to be here making a recording for those interested in mindfulness and mindfulness meditation. We'll introduce ourselves in a moment. I'm Ms. Shepard. We are all part of an organization called the Wisconsin Wisconsin Prison Mindfulness Initiative. And our organization currently is going into, or used to be going into, about 13 prisons around Wisconsin to offer mindfulness trainings. Since we're not able to be coming into the prison any longer due to the COVID-19 pandemic, we have decided to make these videos that hopefully people there will still be able to be getting some regular contact and sharing information about mindfulness and supporting those of you who are already practicing mindfulness and mindfulness meditation, and maybe encouraging those of you who might be new to it to begin. So as I said, I'm Ms. Shepard, and I am here with two other individuals. I'll let introduce themselves right now.
Well, hello, I'm Mr. Keogh. I'm glad to be coming to you, at least not in person, but at least through the airwaves of the electric wires. I'm feeling pretty deprived from being able to come in and see the people who I've become acquainted with in the prisons that I go to. So I'm looking forward to what we can do with these videos, and we thank the prison staff for enabling this to happen. And onwards.
Hi, I'm Dave Cresswell, and I also am feeling deprived by not being able to be actually physically with you. And I'm also just very grateful that I get a chance to share with all of you my experience in these practices that are so helpful for me. And I hope they can be a benefit to you.
Thank you both. So the way this will proceed is we will begin with a guided meditation, and during the guided meditation I'll put up a photograph that I hope is a peaceful image. So we'll begin with a guided meditation, then the three of us will each share some reflections on mindfulness, what this practice is, what it's about, why it is of use, how it might be of benefit for you, how it's been of benefit to us. And then we'll end with another short guided meditation, and we'll close after that. So with that, I will share an image on the screen, and Mr. Keogh will do a guided meditation for us.
Okay, and the people who have been in our mindfulness groups are familiar with this, but there may well be people out there who have not meditated before, and this is for you too. You may be curious, or maybe you're tuning in pretty skeptical about this whole thing, just unclear how all of this meditation stuff has anything to do with you. But what I encourage you to do is to follow along and actively participate. We're going to give a little sample meditation. It's going to be relatively short, just a few minutes. And so if you're looking at this in your cell or with only one or two other people, could you please get the most out of it that you can by please kind of following along, and I'll guide. So the first thing we want to do is be in a position where you can be relaxed and sit or lie still for a few minutes without having to squirm around too much. So get in a position, if you're sitting, where you're upright, you're not tense, but you're also not likely to fall asleep. So we kind of want to be both alert and relaxed. And I'll begin by ringing the bell. And the idea of the bell is just there's something to pay attention to other than your own thoughts. So just listen to the sound of the bell. I'll ring it 3 times. And the purpose of the bell was just to let your attention go to what's happening right here, right now, and away from things that might be in the future or stories about the past. Just your own thoughts are kind of let them drift away and pay attention to what's happening now. So pay attention to the way your body feels right now, whatever your position you're in. What do you notice about the physical sensations? Maybe there are some sensations that are pretty obvious. You might be sitting with some pain. Just take note of it and move on to what else do you feel? So some of us have things that are very obvious that we feel, but one thing that we all feel is there's motion of breathing. We're all breathing and there's movement involved. And see if you can kind of notice, again, not the thought of breathing, but the physical sensations associated with breathing. Do you notice the cool air coming in the tip of your nose? And maybe you notice the rise and fall of your chest or the in and out of your belly. See if you can follow those sensations from the nose down through the throat into your lungs. And just pay attention to yourself. Pay attention to the way it feels right now. Breathing, sitting. Now, if you have trouble breathing right now, you don't have to stay on something that's not comfortable. Pay attention to the other sensations. Maybe you're sitting there and you can feel your weight on the chair or on whatever you're sitting. Or notice whatever your fingers are touching. It's helpful to close your eyes so that you can kind of pay greater attention to the feelings, the sensations, rather than what you're seeing. If you feel comfortable closing your eyes, go ahead and do that. And notice the feeling of whatever your left hand is touching. Then move over, what's your right hand touching? And not just the name of what it's touching, your legs or maybe your hands are touching each other, but the feel of it. And just allow yourself to be calm and relax. And you might say, I can want to be calm and relaxed, but it doesn't necessarily make it happen. That's true. We're allowing the body to do what it's going to do, and we're watching as it does it. But you can allow it, if you can, allow it to get relaxed. Notice your shoulders. What's going on with your shoulders? You can let them slump. You can let them relax. And as we're doing all this, one thing is pretty clear probably, and that's that the mind is not staying in any one place. It's not staying with the body. It's not staying in the present moment. It's jumping all around. It may be thinking, what's next? Or any kind of thought train. Maybe it's kind of going back again and again to something that happened earlier today to you. That's natural, that's normal, it happens to everybody. The minds do not stay still very easily, and we're not going to change that. All we do is, if we notice that the mind is going too far astray and totally forgetting, totally spacing out, just bring it back. No big deal. Be gentle about it. Gently bring it back to, how does it feel to sit here? What we're doing, we're just practicing returning again and again, if necessary, to the present moment, the present experience of living, of sitting right here. So as you're paying attention to your body and the way it feels, and your breath and the way it feels, what about your face? You know, we have dozens of tiny muscles around our eyes and our cheeks. Just let your face relax. Can you release? You may or may not be able to, but see if you can. Release and let your face relax. Relaxed face, relaxed shoulders. Breathing, just let the breathing be whatever is your natural automatic rhythm. You don't have to control it. And notice what it's feeling like, that motion of breathing, the in and the out. And by this time, you may have come back from wandering thoughts more than once. For me, it might be multiple times every minute. But I'm not fighting my thoughts. I'm not trying to squelch them or get rid of them. I'm just noticing them, saying to myself, whoops, I wanted to be thinking about my body right now. I wanted to be thinking of my breath. One breath and then the next. You can be a little curious about your breath. Can you follow the breath, the in-breath, and then the exhale? And then notice there's a little stop where there's no motion for a little bit, and then the next inhale. So this is about paying attention to what's happening, not getting it carried away into some other time or space. Now I'm going to ring the bell again to end this, but I'm going to take a few breaths first. So these final breaths, see if you can follow your breath all the way, the inhale and the exhale, all the way through the cycle. And then we'll ring it in another breath or two. Back to you, Ms. Shepard.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Kia. So that was a guided mindfulness meditation practice. And what we are here about today, and we'll be back, we hope, again, is to share with you this practice of mindfulness. Because mindfulness is a way we relate to our life in every moment. And we learn it, we practice it, we become more skilled at it through this practice of mindfulness meditation. But mindfulness itself is about living life with intention, with clarity of intention, so that each moment what we are aiming at is so that each moment of our life is lived with intention, that we're not spending our life thinking about what used to be, wishing that what happened before wasn't that way, and we're not living our life planning, living in a future that may or may not occur. That we're living our life here and now, in this moment, and bringing to it our best intentions. Living our values, living what matters to us in each moment. Because we can only do that now. If we are lost in our memories of the past, in our hopes for a future, we're not able to bring our best intention to what's actually happening now. We have to be able to know what's actually occurring right now in order to respond to it with wisdom, with kindness, with clarity. Now, that doesn't mean that we never reflect on the past or that we never think about a future. We do those things, but we do them now. And we do them with clarity and intention, knowing right now I'm going to be thinking about the past in order to consider how the past can inform my present moment. Or right now I'm going to think about what I maybe need to be doing now in order to make the sort of future that I'm hoping to have. So it's not that we're ignorant of past or future. We use those in important, wise ways. We use what's happened before in order to inform and act on the intention we have for this moment. And we think about the future without getting lost in planning for it. This is a somewhat subtle distinction that people often raise when they first learn about mindfulness. They say, well, can't I ever plan? Can't I ever think about what happened before? And yes, of course you can. The point is, you're doing it with intention now, and you're in control. The problem is that so often for many of us, for example, I may be speaking with someone I really care about deeply, really wanting to be connecting with them, hearing what they say, listening to them. And instead, my mind is making my grocery list because after I'm with them, I'm going to be going to the grocery store. That's not by my choice. That's just habit pattern. What we're trying to do is recognize, learn about these habits that pull us out of the moment, out of the present, out of what we are really wanting in each moment of our life, so that we can come back and be there with that friend who needs us in that moment. Come back and be there with ourselves because we need ourselves in each moment. So the way I like to think about this practice is it's really about not missing out on our own lives, not missing out on any single moment of our own lives. Because so often, whether it's due to pains of the past or excitement about the future, we actually end up not being here for our own life. So mindfulness is knowing, it's awareness. It's being aware of what's occurring in our own body and our own heart and our own mind in any moment. And not allowing, it's not a question of allowing, it's developing skill so that when we recognize what's happening in our own mind, if it isn't for our own benefit, if it isn't for the well-being of ourselves and others, we can release it, we can let it go and come back to what is of help, what is of use, what is based on kindness and clarity and wisdom in this very moment. The way we learn that skill, because it is a skill, it takes practice. It's not natural. It's something we have to learn to do. The way we learn it is through this practice of meditation, like you just did. Through this practice of learning, of reducing external stimuli, as many external distractions as possible. Not all, because that's impossible, but as much as we can, being in a place where there will not be as many distractions, and learning to be interested in what's actually happening in our own body and minds in this moment. And that's why we use the breath as an object, because it is always present. And why we practice staying with the breath, noticing if thoughts arise, noticing strong emotions, noticing the impact on the body, but not allowing them to pull us out and away from this moment, not allowing ourselves to get lost in what in this tradition we often call stories. Because so often something will arise in our experience. Maybe it's a memory, maybe it's a thought, maybe it's a sensation, maybe it's an image. And very quickly, the mind grabs onto that image and starts spinning out thoughts and stories. And soon we are in that story. We aren't here any longer. So our meditation practice is what teaches us how to, one, recognize we've been caught, learn to release where we've been caught, and come back to the simplicity, the calm, the ease of just being present with this body in this moment. And our ability to do that, we learn, actually gives us a great sense of calm and ease. That is the beauty of mindfulness, is that somehow it almost seems magical. It relaxes us, it calms us, and it's a skill. Learning what it means to really just be present in this moment without adding anything extra is our practice, and it takes practice. So let me allow my friends to also share some thoughts on this practice of mindfulness and meditation. So Mr. Cresswell, if you would please share.
Yes, so why is it wise to start a meditation practice and then to maintain it? Well, what have I myself gained from it? Well, all of us have mental habits that we would be better off if they changed. Following unhealthy thought patterns can cause stress, can cause us to behave in ways that are harmful to ourselves and others, speaking or acting impulsively, as opposed to responding after really considering what is called for in the moment. And these habits of unmindful thinking, unmindful speech, unmindful action are very deep-seated within the mind. And yet, with sustained mindfulness practice, we can loosen and weaken these habits over time, and greatly then benefiting ourselves and others. Now, when I began this practice, I was in a job that I was very unhappy in, and yet it simply did not make any sense for me not to continue in that job for some years. And that unhappiness spilled over into my weekend and evening time. But early on in my practice, I noticed myself more and more catching these moods of anxiety or irritation or anger, and being able to counteract them. And it began to really improve my behavior. In fact, my 14-year-old son came to me and said, "Whatever this meditation is you're doing, Dad, be sure and keep doing it." And I remember catching myself one time in my morning commute and realizing that I had tight hold of the steering wheel and I was trying to maneuver around traffic to get to a job I didn't like. And I was ignoring, it was in the spring, I was ignoring the beauty all around me. And I just spontaneously burst out laughing at my own foolishness. And I really never did that again. Later on, I used mindfulness reflection and mindful speech to radically change my relationship with my father, who I had continued for many years to be uncomfortable with due to physical and psychological abuse when I was a kid. I was able to turn that around, and my last few years with him was very sweet. I also used mindful speech to really turn around my relationship with the abusive boss that I'd worked for over several years and needed to stay with over several more. I remember one day a really tough challenge of restraining myself while he lambasted me unfairly for over 45 minutes. And instead, I projected a caring attitude. A couple of times, I actually started to speak impulsively, but caught myself with just a grunt, kind of a, and then settled back down. It was intensely unpleasant, but I just took notes. And when he is finished, he asked me, what did I have to say about all this? I told him that he had made some important points, and I wanted to study these in my notes before responding. And then we never spoke again about any of the points he had made. And yet our relationship changed much for the better. I would never have been able to restrain myself as I did had I not been practicing mindfulness for some time. And there are many other benefits that I've gained over the years. Most recently, in being able to be really comfortable with this aging body, with its gradual deterioration in spite of my healthy habits, and the uncertainty of how long I have left. Able to consistently really relax into these concerns and keep coming back to the joys available in each present moment. And Mr. Keogh has some additional comments.
Thanks, Mr. Cresswell. Very interesting stories. Thanks for telling us so much of your own experiences. I think what I'll do, I'll fill in a little different side of what I see as one of the multiple values of a mindfulness practice. You were talking a lot about kind of the overarching moods and noticing the way that you're reacting to things. But there are times when we're reacting right away, immediately. Something happens, it flashes, and we have to react right now. A little bit like when you were mentioning when your boss was lecturing you. But when something's happening and it's flashing, it's like right out there. It's like it hits me. I'm a little bit less immediately reactive than I was before I started this mindfulness practice. I'm a little bit, my fuse is a little longer. It's not so short. I'm a little bit better able, you use the word responding rather than reacting. I'm a little bit more able to keep my cool, keep my calm, even in something that happens immediately. And I think that's an important thing, that when, as I've been coming in and meeting with groups in prisons, people will say, even after a few weeks of meditation practice, they'll say that they notice that they're not reacting quite so impulsively as they had in the past. In fact, this is not rare, and I'm sure that all of our volunteers have heard this in groups. It's very interesting and very cool when a guy comes in. In these groups, we typically ask people to check in. How's it been going the last couple of weeks since we saw you last? And when a guy will come in and say, well, I had some trouble, but you know what? If it wasn't for this mindfulness stuff, I'd be in seg right now.
Mm-hmm.
And that is so cool to hear, because that's telling us that number one, the guy really has been practicing. He's not just been saying that he has. But also, it's kind of like it's a near-term, short-term, very clear benefit of this meditation practice. I wanted to kind of tell the story of, and I think Ms. Shepard mentioned that we're using our meditation. We're intentionally sitting down and meditating for a few minutes, as long as, even just a few every day, but we encourage a daily practice. You practice this, you practice this, you practice this, not to be great in your meditation practice, but the practice is to prepare you for the game. And the game is the rest of your life. The game is when you're out there and you've got whatever it is, some, a staff person, whatever, that's in your face, and you have to react in a way that's going to keep you out of seg, right? So we're practicing meditation, and then it's almost like it happens a bit automatically, where we get a little bit less reactive. We get a little bit more, it's a little bit more an automatic thing that I pay attention to my breath as I'm there in the heat of the moment. And I might be a little bit more likely to do what maybe I've heard in the past, count to 3 before you react. I'm a little bit more likely to be able to remember to do that. Count to 3, watch my breath, notice my anger rising, have that ability to maybe bite your tongue, like Mr. Kressel had to do, or maybe if not bite your tongue, say the smart thing that's not going to create more trouble, but that will kind of hopefully lead to a good resolution rather than making things worse. Think of this. I guess I just want to end with this little image of if you play a sport, or if you have played a sport before you got locked down. If you play a sport, basketball or whatever, you're practicing these free throws again and again and again. And the reason is because when you're out there and a lot of people are looking at you, you don't want your mind to be thinking too much other than what you're to do. You want to be calm, collected, yet on edge. You definitely want to you're fully engaged, but you're engaged with the way you're holding the ball, the way where the net is. You're not being distracted by something that somebody yells at you, right? This gives you the more ability to do that, and that's actually why many professional teams have meditation coaches. That was one of the things the Chicago Bulls did in the heyday, was they had a meditation coach. So I'll stop there. I don't know if anyone else would like to add something.
Yeah. So thank you both. So I think that did give you a very good summary of what this practice is about, what its benefits are. I guess I'd add that the benefits are also broader in terms of it's not only the immediate response to, what your cellie says or what the CO says, but it's also just working with the intensity of living. So I say that now in a time of the COVID pandemic, when we've had 100,000 people die in this country, it may well be that you have had people in your own family die. I say that today on May 29th, when our country is reeling from the recent killing of Mr. George Floyd. There are riots across the nation. This practice is, how do we work with the intensity of life, with the intensity of those things, with grief, with loss. And this practice gives us those skills in exactly the same way that Mr. Keogh and Mr. Cresswell have spoken about, to recognize, to pause, and really take in what's happening in my body, in my heart, right now, and not get caught up in reaction. And instead consider, this really hurts. This is pain. This is loss. This is grief. This hurts me. To be willing to be with that sense of hurt without flailing out, and instead letting it settle, so that at some point we can redirect that intense grief or hurt or anger or pain or despair, whatever it is. We can see it for what it is and know or consider, what is really for my long-term well-being and the long-term well-being of others. How do I take what's happening in my heart and mind right now and turn it to good? Turn it to what it is I really care about. And that's the gift of this practice. It's the gift of living the life we choose to live, living the life we can feel proud of, living the life that can be a gift to ourselves and to other beings. We've all known people who live that kind of a life, whose life has been a gift to us. We're learning, how do I live with that sort of intention? How do I make my life a gift to me and a gift to the people that encounter me? So we do encourage you to practice as regularly as you can. Practice for the length of time that feels right to you, where it doesn't feel like a chore. You're not adding it to a to-do list. It is a gift to yourself, to give yourself time with yourself, to do nothing. No expectations, no demands, no failure, no success, just sitting. So we urge you to do that as often as you can. And we're going to have another practice right now for you to practice just being present. As simple as that. Not easy, but simple. Just being with whatever is present right now. So I'll put the image up again so that if you choose to not close your eyes, you have something pleasant to look at. And Mr. Cresswell will lead us in another meditation.
So another benefit of this practice, another gift, is that as we get more used to the sitting, it can become a refuge in itself. It can become refreshing and something we look forward to. So with that in mind, of the sitting being easeful, Either sit with your back erect or laying down. Again, just feeling what this body feels. Again, there may be obvious feelings like pain, can we relax around that pain and just be there with it? There may be agitation in the mind, and that may cause agitation in the body. Can we gently but firmly put our attention in the body? Whether it's agitation, or relaxation, or discomfort, knowing to just be with this without the mind spinning out is good practice and helps us to relax into whatever is happening in the body. And as Mr. Keogh told us, we can be especially diligent about relaxing the muscles in the face, relaxing the shoulders, and as the body becomes relaxed, the sensations of breathing will naturally come to the forefront. We may notice it first at the nostrils. We may notice it with the belly rising and falling. We may feel it in the chest, in the heart center. We may be able to keep our attention on more than one of these. Allowing the breathing to go at its own rhythm, and feeling how, when our attention is on that breathing, there's a natural relaxation in the body. And we may get pulled away right away to agitation in the mind or agitation in the body. Not treating that as the enemy of meditation, but allowing the mind to focus on the relaxation of the breathing. And on whatever feels easeful in the body. it may be useful to use a noting of, what I use is inspire on the in-breath, which is literally what we're doing, but inspiration has a broader meaning. So we're inspired by bringing that energy into the body and then letting go on the out-breath. And as we feel and note the inspire on the in-breath and the letting go on the out-breath, it can help us to focus somewhat better on the breath and on the way it feels in the body. So simply continuing with this inspire and letting go. And when the mind wanders, as it inevitably will, not to make a problem out of that. That's the way minds do. Very gently, but firmly, bringing the attention back to the focus on the breathing body and the feelings in the body. If the mind wanders many times, each time we're aware of that is a chance to come back to the body, really a chance to be mindful.
So thank you all so much. We send you our best wishes, our condolences, and any losses you may recently have experienced. And we will hope to return in a few weeks to see you again. Best wishes for your practice and your life. May you be well. May you be at ease. May you be happy. Take care.
Yes, stay in there, hang in there. One thing I heard once, and I like to repeat to others, is everything that you faced so far, you've been able to handle, and you can probably handle everything that's coming up too. Just be as well as you can be, stay cool.
And please know that our thoughts are with you and that our hearts go out to you in this difficult time. And we look forward to being with you when physically, when circumstances allow.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.